Imagine 5 friends, young and full of life, vanishing into the cold, unforgiving wilderness. No goodbye, no explanation. Months later, their bodies are discovered in a state so bizarre, so chilling, it raises more questions than answers. One of them is still missing, and the forest isn't talking. This is the story of the Yuba County Five, a real-life horror that defies logic, leaving behind only fragments of a nightmare. Was it a tragic accident, or did something far more sinister stalk them that night? They called themselves the Gateway Gators, 5 friends who shared a love for basketball and adventure. On February 24th, 1978, they set out to watch a game in Yuba City, California. It was a trip they'd made countless times before. But this night would be different. This night would change everything. When the game ended, they were last seen laughing and joking at a convenience store just past midnight. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. No one could have imagined what was coming next. Somewhere along the way, something went terribly wrong. Their car was found abandoned miles off course, deep in the remote wilderness. No signs of struggle, no signs of where they went. Only silence and snow. What drove them into the freezing night? Was it fear, desperation, or something far more sinister lurking in the darkness? Outside the cabin, the remains of 3 other men, Madruga, Sterling, and Hewitt, were found scattered across the wilderness. Their deaths seemed to result from exposure, yet why they abandoned their car to trek into the freezing wilderness remains a mystery. And then there's Gary Mathias, the 5th man. His body was never found. Was it a wrong turn that led them to disaster? Did they encounter someone, or something, that forced them into the wilderness? Some believe Gary Mathias, who suffered from schizophrenia, might hold the key to the mystery, but his disappearance only deepens the enigma. Decades have passed, but the Yuba County Five remain a haunting reminder of how easily ordinary lives can slip into the unknown. Whatever happened that February night, the wilderness still guards its secrets, and perhaps it always will. Do you think the mystery will ever be solved? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more chilling tales of the unknown. The most plausible theory suggests the group took a wrong turn, ending up deep in the Plumas National Forest. But here's where things get strange. Jack Madruga, the driver, was described as fiercely protective of his car and would have never willingly driven it onto an unpaved mountain road. Inside the cabin where Ted Wire was found, investigators discovered peculiar items: a watch that didn't belong to any of the men, a neatly folded pile of clothing, and dozens of canned goods left untouched. They also found matches and propane tanks capable of heating the cabin, tools that could have saved their lives, but they were never used. Why? Gary Mathias's disappearance is perhaps the most confounding piece of the puzzle. Despite extensive searches, not a single trace of him was ever found. Yet authorities discovered his sneakers inside the cabin, too small for anyone else in the group. Had he ventured further into the wilderness barefoot? Or was he taken by someone or something? Over the years, some have suggested supernatural explanations. The Yuba County Five were in a region known for strange disappearances and eerie legends. Locals spoke of a mysterious figure called the Watcher of the Woods, who was said to lure travelers into the forest, never to return. Did they encounter something beyond human comprehension? Near the cabin, a frozen creek held another clue: a small flashlight. Theories suggest it might have been dropped during a desperate search for help. Yet the direction it pointed led further into the wilderness, away from safety. Was someone chasing them, or were they running towards something they couldn't explain? The Yuba County Five remain one of America's most baffling cold cases. The questions outweigh the answers. Why abandon their car? Why ignore food and heat? And what happened to Gary Mathias? For decades, these questions have haunted not just the families, but also anyone drawn into the mystery. Until the wilderness gives up its secrets, we may never know the truth. Perhaps the Yuba County Five fell victim to the harshness of nature, or perhaps they stumbled upon something they were never meant to find. The forest knows the truth, but it's not telling. Decades have passed since that fateful February night in 1978, yet the mystery of the Yuba County Five remains as cold and impenetrable as the forest itself. Investigators have scoured every clue, explored every theory, yet no answer seems to fit. Were they lost? Were they lured? Or did they stumble into something no one was meant to see? Ted Wire starved to death in a room full of food. 3 of the others died scattered across the wilderness, exposed to the freezing elements. And Gary simply vanished, leaving behind only questions. What made them leave their car, their only sanctuary, and wander into the icy wilderness? What kept them from returning, even as they faced starvation and death? And where is Gary Mathias? Some believe they fell victim to nature's wrath, others to their own fear and confusion. But there are those who whisper of darker possibilities, an encounter with something that cannot be explained, that the forest hides secrets humanity was never meant to uncover. The Yuba County Five disappeared into the wilderness, leaving behind a puzzle no one has been able to solve. Perhaps the answers lie in the shadows, waiting for someone brave or foolish enough to find them. Until then, the forest keeps its secrets, and so does the night. The most plausible explanation is that the Yuba County Five became lost after a wrong turn, abandoned their car in confusion, and tried to survive in a harsh environment they were ill-prepared for. Their judgment, potentially impaired by intellectual disabilities, fear, and Gary Mathias's mental health condition, likely contributed to a series of tragic decisions. Ultimately, they succumbed to exposure, exhaustion, and starvation. Gary Mathias's body was never found, adding an unsettling element to the case, but he may have wandered deeper into the forest or been consumed by the wilderness. To this day, the Yuba County Five remains a chilling reminder of how quickly confusion and isolation can turn an ordinary trip into a nightmare. The forest knows what happened, but its secrets remain buried in snow, silence, and time. The most plausible explanation is that the Yuba County Five became lost after a wrong turn, abandoned their car in confusion, and tried to survive in a harsh environment they were ill-prepared for. Their judgment, potentially impaired by intellectual disabilities, fear, and Gary Mathias's mental health condition, likely contributed to a series of tragic decisions. Ultimately, they succumbed to exposure, exhaustion, and starvation. Gary Mathias's body was never found, adding an unsettling element to the case, but he may have wandered deeper into the forest or been consumed by the wilderness. To this day, the Yuba County Five remains a chilling reminder of how quickly confusion and isolation can turn an ordinary trip into a nightmare. The forest knows what happened, but its secrets remain buried in snow, silence, and time.